What is going on, my broskiis? My name is Toadskii, back again, here to bring you guys yet another One Piece Treasure Cruise video, and today we have our treasure map preparation video, and this video is specifically only going to be covering free-to-play teams. I'm likely going to be doing 2 additional videos, one for more accessible teams, so for people that have, a couple of, legends, rare recruits, but not the most recent released rare recruits and legends, I'll probably do another video regarding that, and then I'll also do a video talking about my own personal teams, just to give you guys a little bit of variety into different team builds you can potentially use for this upcoming treasure map versus Kanjuro. So before we actually jump into the video today, I want to briefly just talk about the unit. So Kanjuro himself is a strength-driven striker. Captain effect will boost driven by 3.75 with a 1.2 health boost and 10% damage reduction. For a free-to-play captain, definitely not bad at all. And then the special ability on a 12-turn cooldown will reduce all enemies' defense by 80% for 2 turns, and then also reduce enemies' defense up and threshold and resilience by 4 turns. A little bit annoying that it's only a 4-turn removal. Would have been much better if it was 5, but it's usable still. There's an added effect that says that if your captain's slot is a strength slot when you launch the special, it gives you a 1.75 times attack boost against defense down, so you can do it in such a way where you get a guaranteed conditional boost. But then also, if your captain is a driven character, you get 2 times color affinity to strength characters for 1 turn. So I do kind of like that little bit of variety. You get color affinity, you can get a defense down conditional, a little bit of utility, just does a little bit of everything. As for his crewmate abilities, he does give you additional damage versus quick enemies. He actually doesn't have type disadvantage, should I say, against quick enemies, which is actually pretty cool. And then also driven characters base attack boosted by 60, pretty basic stuff. He doesn't have a very unique support effect, unfortunately, either. But for Rumble, he's actually kind of interesting for free to play. Strength characters, level 5 attack, level 5 health, and dex enemies attack down level 3. Pretty good passive. And then the special on 26 CT does a medium horizontal 2 times attack damage, and then speed down and defense down level 5. Pretty okay unit for a free to play. If you are looking into building a strength team, you don't have many options, this is potentially an option you could go for. So jumping into the team builds here, one thing that we do need to know is I am recording this on, right before the Treasure Map Sugo Fest goes live. So at this point in time, we actually do not have the boosted list in the game. You'll see that some characters are listed as recommended, however, the actual boosted effects are not applied, so you can see that the treasure point boost may not be accurate, so do keep that in mind. But for this team here versus X-Drake, we're using just the typical Psy free-to-play Straw Hats. Not going to have any issues with this one, as you'll have to deal on the final stage with bind, 5 turns of bind to your bottom row and 3 turns of paralysis to your middle row. There is full immunity on this stage as well, so any conditional boosts are not going to be activated. But the free-to-play Nami here, her special gets rid of all of the potential debuffs that you'll encounter, and then by using the other Straw Hat characters, you'll be getting your matching slots and huge damage boost versus X-Drake. Moving on to the secondary boss of the treasure map is going to be Who's Who. Who's Who is an int character, so keep that in mind. You predominantly want Psy characters for this fight. The characters that receive cooldown are shooters, slashers, and free spirit characters, and the preemptive attack will change your slots to badly matching, empty, or block slots. You also get 8 turns of bind to your captains and 5 turns of special bind to your entire team. Lots of nasty debuffs happening here. So we have the Onigashima Luffy to get rid of the special bind, which is great. Also gets rid of the block slots, very, very useful to have. Gyukimaru and the Shanks / Mihawk unit are able to remove the bind off of our team. And then the Gabe character can generate us a full board of slots that we really need. And then essentially with the specials active, we should have some pretty good damage with our Psy characters to get through. Remember, we are building for free to play here, so it's not going to be the most optimal teams you'll see, but it should be able to beat the Who's Who boss fight and at least get the job done. Moving on now to the third boss fight versus Sasaki, who is a strength character, so you predominantly want quick units for this fight. So for this fight though, Dex, Quick, and Int characters are the characters that will be receiving the special charge time. On the final battle though, 5 turns of attack down, 5 turns of paralysis, and then there is this really weird effect, and you do have to read it properly because it says that if your chain multiplier exceeds 3, so if it goes above 3, you actually will be receiving an attack down. So, we have seen this in the past where depending on your chain multiplier, your attack is going to be reduced. But typically, you only get the attack down if your chain is low. So if your chain is like lower than 2 or lower than 2.5, it's going to make it so you have attack down. However, in this instance, it's the reverse, where if your chain exceeds a certain multiplier, that's when you're going to get the attack down. So this is where the free-to-play Perospero is very good, because he actually gives you a 2.75 times chain lock, so that enables it to never go above that 3 threshold, which means you're not going to have to worry about that specific attack down. But the chopper on this team will get rid of the paralysis and the attack down, which is great, and the resilience is also removed via Perospero because he does do end of turn damage. So this is going to be a pretty optimal team, I think, at least for free-to-play, to get around this fight. A lot easier, of course. Perospero and the free-to-play chopper are going to be great units for this fight. And now we move on to the final of the Battle Rush bosses, and definitely the most difficult of the Battle Rush bosses, being Black Maria. She's actually a quick character, so keep that in mind. Now, the Driven, Slasher, and Free Spirit classes are the characters that receive the special charge time. And on the final battle, there's lots of debuffs here. So there is Despair that gets inflicted, 8 turns of it. You also get given 3 turns of a 1.1 attack and orb boost, so you need to find a way to get around that to remove it. And you'll also have a delay immunity. However, if you activate any slot changing effect, she's going to go ahead and change all of your slots into any type slot, so Strength, Dex, Quick, Style, Int, and then also put them in slot change impossible, so you have to hit 2 goods to unlock them. So you ideally don't want to activate a slot change special, but if you have crewmate effects that can treat type slots as matching, makes it very, very easy. And ideally, you want to be using 6+ V2 Doflamingo for this fight, and if you have him, definitely makes it a lot easier. Now what happens is that even if you get around these effects and you defeat her, she's going to fully recover and inflict normal attacks only to your crew. So with this team, we're able to get around the Despair via Kaido and the Oniwabanshu character. Those 2 characters remove the Despair. When you do use Kaido though, he does actually remove your beneficial effects, so you can get rid of that really pesky attack and orb boost. But he also does do a bit of orb change, so that's going to proc the Interrupt, which will change your slots into either Strength, Dex, Quick, Style, Int. So with this team specifically, you definitely want to run V2 Doflamingo 6+ as a friend captain. If you have your own, makes it a lot easier. And then by doing so, we have like Blackbeard for a damage boost because the enemy does not have a defense down immunity, so Blackbeard's conditional boost will be active. Mori is basically here as a stat stick. San Juan Wolf gives you an orb boost. So this is not a perfect team, but it should be able to get through Black Maria, at least for a little bit, in terms of a full raw free-to-play team. And now we get to talk about the final boss. Now, we still haven't talked about the Intrusion boss, so stay tuned for that in the video. But the final boss at the end of the map is going to be Ulti in Page 1. So Ulti Page 1, at the final boss, they are Strength. We don't know the color of the mini-boss on Stage 2. Keep that in mind. It could definitely still be Strength. It might be Quick. It could be Dex. We're not really too sure, but keep it in mind. But the characters that receive cooldown are Dex, Quick, and Psi characters, which all of these characters on this team are. By the way, this team is applying the fact that you're going to be using the Izo and Okiku character as a friend captain for this quest. Now, in Battle 2, you'll get given 5 turns of attack down and 5 turns of paralysis. Now, if you are using Okiku and Izo as your friend captain, remember that as a captain, they do resist 10 turns of paralysis, and it's very useful to have that because there is a lot of paralysis that gets inflicted on this fight. I don't know why they structure these treasure maps in such a way where it's borderline impossible to do it in a timely manner if you're not using the friend captain that released during this time period. I absolutely hate and despise it, but it is the way it is, so we have to build around that. So as I said, 5 turns of attack down, 5 turns of paralysis. Now the Sabo on this team here is how we're getting around the attack down. He also gives color affinity to Dex, Psi, and Strength characters, but it's not really super optimal for this team. He does treat some slots beneficial to those types as well, which is kind of cool, but mainly just here to get around the attack down. And then ideally you use the Okiku and Izu special here to give you a chain lock just to get some additional damage output here. Now, when you reach the final battle versus Ulti in Page 1, they'll inflict 8 turns of paralysis to you. You get badly matching slots, delay immunity, and 5 turns of damage threshold. So with this team, we're going to be using the Jinbei, which actually gets rid of all of the damage threshold, as well as, applies a damage reducing effect, gives a chain boost and stuff like that. We have the Tashigi, which gives a color affinity boost to Slasher and Cerebral. We have Law, who gives an attack boost to Slasher and Cerebral characters. And then we have the Zoro and the Sanji unit, which can enable us to get the increased damage taken on the enemy. Though I probably would advise to switch out the Zora and Sanji unit for another character that can just kind of generate you some perfect slots. I don't really know off the top of my head which character you could possibly use that is boosted in this sense that would help, but definitely replacing them with a character that can just generate a slot for you would be way more useful than this unit in my opinion, because they're only really applying the increased damage taken to the enemy, which is not completely perfect, but I think it should work. I'm not 100% sure. Obviously, you know, raw free-to-play is very difficult to build for, but yeah, this should be interesting enough. I think it should be okay. The amount of damage from multipliers you have is fine, but I think the matching slots is going to be the hard thing. So replacing them with an orb booster or an orb changer is probably going to be the best way forward, because if you do activate an orb boosting effect, you get your health cut in half, and also they remove your beneficial effects. So unfortunately, orb boosting isn't super optimal here, though you can carry an orb boost from the previous stage into this stage, and you can do that if you use an orb boosting special on stage 2, and then use Izo and Okiku special on stage 2, which actually extends the duration of those orb boosts by 2 turns, making it capable to be carried into that final room. So that is an option as well. So there are a couple of different ways you could go about it, but yeah, a very, very annoying treasure map to build for. And now we can have a look at the final Intrusion boss. So remember, this is likely the first boss that you're going to be encountering in a treasure map. This guy is also a strength character. We do not know the color of battle 2, so keep that in mind. And this team is also, you know, just assuming the fact that you're going to be using Izo and Okiku as a friend captain for this quest. So what happens here is that Slasher, Free Spirit, and Shooter characters receive the cooldown here. Battle 2, preemptive, you have 5 turns of attack down if your chain is below 2.5. Remember, if you're able to use the Izo and Okiku special, you're going to have your chain locked at 3.5, so you don't have to worry about that attack down. But ideally, this is where, you know, the free-to-play aspect makes it very difficult. There isn't a free-to-play unit that you can use that specifically gets rid of defense up and Rainbow Shield by 4 turns. So ideally, we're just stalling 1 turn, and then we're using the Frankie special, which is able to remove 3 turns of Rainbow and Blue Shield, and then you'd use Izo and Okiku to carry that chain lock into that room. But then battle 3, the preemptive is going to give a 70% health cut to your team, which is a lot. They also inflict 6 turns of special bind and 3 turns of a 1.1 chain lock and a delay immunity. So remember, if you do have a chain lock that you carried into this room, that's not going to be you know, removed off of you, so you don't have to worry about the chain debuff inflicted to your team. The 6 turns of Special Bind is tough though. Now luckily, this Luffy as a captain does remove 1 turn of Special Bind, which means you have to remove up to 5 turns of Special Bind. Now luckily, you do have the effect of the Oni Wabanshu character, which they actually completely resist Special Bind off themselves, or they resist like 10 turns of it or something like that, which is very, very useful here. So they remove 10 turns of Special Bind off themselves because they themselves remove 2 turns. So with Luffy and Oni Wabanshu, that removes 3 turns on your crew, which enables you to use the Law special, which removes the additional leftover turns of Special Bind, as well as giving your Slasher and Cerebral characters a 2 times attack boost. However, that unfortunately is not going to occur because you're going to be below 70% HP. You're going to be like, your health cut by 70%. So he's going to give you a really good heal. But luckily, the Luffy character does give you the attack boost, so that's really, really nice. Luffy provides a 2 times attack boost, which is cool. And then the Wapple character here is a character that provides an orb boost to Driven and Shooters. So this is going to be boosting the orbs of Izo and Okiku. But it also prevents damage that exceeds 3,000 but for 2 turns. So this is a really good way to deal with the defeat effect, because when you defeat Kanjuro, he does 80,000 damage to your team. So it's so annoying that he does such a significant health cut and then he does 80,000 damage. So I feel like this is probably one of the best ways for free-to-play to get around it, is by using this Wapple to block that damage. But remember, we do have the huge health boost from Law, because we're health being cut when we use the Law special. That does actually provide pretty good healing to our team. So if you find the Izo and Okiku friend captain, I feel like these teams should work, at least in the earlier stages of the treasure map. Definitely later on, this is going to struggle big time for sure, but remember, these are only free-to-play teams. If you have summonable, rare recruit, legend characters, definitely put them on your teams. It's going to make it way easier for you to clear this quest. So with all that being said, that is going to conclude this One Piece Treasure Cruise video. As I said, I will be uploading further additional videos to help you guys out with team building for this upcoming treasure map versus Kanjuro. Hopefully you guys enjoyed it, and if you guys did, make sure you go ahead and hit the like button. And if you want to stay up to date with all the content that I post, including more One Piece Treasure Cruise content, make sure to hit the subscribe button down below. But on that, guys, I'll see you guys within the next video.